Alright, so now we've pulled our image in and we've inserted it as a texture, but clearly it doesn't work as an actual object in the model. So if our view is like this, my dog turns into a thin line of nothing, and from here we've got a weird shadow or box around the dog, which we don't want to have. The other thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go up to my toolbars and I'm going to turn my shadows on. Now, I don't know if I'm in a place that will allow me to do that, but the other part that's a little goofy right now is the dog's clearly square, which is a wee bit weird. So his shadow is weird, everything else is a little goofy. We need to kind of fix that. So one of the first things we can do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to double click on the image and make sure I get the frame. I'm going to right click and I'm going to make a component. So the first thing we do is we need to make it a component, and I'm going to call it Boston, name it after my dog. And we want to make sure we have replace selection with component selected. We also, this time with alignment, we need to make sure we are always facing the camera. And then that with that, shadows facing the sun will come up. We do want that to default. And I'm going to hit create. So now the cool thing is, as I rotate around, notice my dog is always facing me. And we may use the glue to fix the shadow because he's pivoting off of his shadow a little bit. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to edit it just a little bit so that we don't have this goofy kind of thing going on. So I'm going to open the component, and I'm going to take my squirrely line pencil thing, and starting at the very bottom, I'm going to just come up, and I'm going to roughly trace a shape around my dog that looks somewhat dog-like. And obviously the closer and more meticulous I am, the better it is. However, keep in mind, it won't make a huge difference. Now at the bottom, I'm going to kind of flare it out to give me a little bit more flexibility. So now that I've outlined a shape that looks more like my dog, I'm going to erase the big box that I've created, and you can kind of start to see that the dog's shadow is a little bit more kind of shadow-like. Now again, this isn't the best image to use because it's not straight on. There's a little too much depth in the bottom of his feet, but it gives you the idea. So I'm going to double-click, and then double-click. I'm going to highlight everything, and then I'm going to shift and deselect the face. What I'm really trying to do right now is select simply the faces that the object is on. Actually, you know what? I'm going to be a little more meticulous before I do that. I'm going to open them up, and I just don't like the way this line is working. So I'm going to come back in. I'm going to get a little closer to his feet on this side. I think it'll make it look a little less goofy in the long run. All right, so now what I'll do is double click. I'm going to make sure I get all of these lines. And the trick is you can select each line, but it takes forever. So once I've got the entire object selected, I'm going to deselect the face. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click his face. Click on the face of the image. And you can see it's deselected. And then the tricky part is I want to hover right over a line, right-click, and I want to hide the faces. And once the faces are hidden, it gives me a much stronger outline of the dog. Now, the funny thing is it looks still a little goofy because I need to go up to View and uncheck Hidden Geometry. So now my dog is simply just sitting in the model.